Welcome to Scouting for Growth, where corporate innovators, investors, and founders come to decode the secrets of scaling their business in an increasingly AI-driven world. I'm your host, Sabine van der Linden, and I want to thank you for your continuous support. Scouting for Growth is a top 6 podcast within the Apple entrepreneurship category. I could not have done this without you. So today we will tackle a question that keeps solopreneurs, sales teams, and even regulated industries like finance and insurance up at night. How do you grow your business on LinkedIn without sounding like a spammy robot? My guest, Colin Hirdman, is the antidote to automated mediocrity. And you know, I'm a proponent of LinkedIn. As a lifelong entrepreneur and co-founder of Monkey Island Ventures, he has spent 2 decades scaling SaaS tools, digital agencies, and now Rainmaker, a white glove service that ethically automates LinkedIn outreach to turn connections into revenue. But here's why this matters for you. If you are a solopreneur drowning in shiny object tactics, if you are an insurance finance agent and fear compliance rules will strangle your LinkedIn strategy, or if you have ever been locked out of LinkedIn for daring to reach out your niche target audience too much. Well, Colin is here to unpack Rainmaker's authentic engine framework. 10 to 30% connection rates, campaigns tailored to macro audiences, and why human-driven strategies still dominate AI in B2B growth. Sneak peek moments you won't want to miss. Why it targets 25 people per day and how even solo founders can replicate this. The criminal justed grad who turned entrepreneur accidentally and sold his first business after college. A debate on LinkedIn automation guardrails. What is ethical versus what gets you banned? So whether you are scaling a 40-person team at a venture studio or hustling solo at play, this is LinkedIn Growth Unfiltered. Welcome, Colin, to the Scouting for Growth podcast. Hi, Colin. Thank you so much for joining me on Scouting for Growth.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited about the conversation.
Same here. And I think a lot of solopreneur and entrepreneur will too. So tell us, Colin, a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I've luckily never had to make a resume. Started my first company a week after I graduated from college with a criminal justice degree, which I never used. I never took a business, accounting, or marketing class in college, and just pretty much learned everything along the way. So I was, pretty lucky just getting started with a business, and had that for about a decade. I ended up selling that business. It was a marketing communications company, and in 2007 started Monkey Island Ventures with my 2 business partners that I have now. We've all known each other since we were about 5 years old, and Monkey Island is named after a park we used to play at when we were kids, located here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. So, yeah, and so I feel very, very blessed to have them as business partners. They are, people that I can trust innately. We even came up with kind of our core values, the 5 F's, which is freedom, finances, family, friendship, and fun. And we've lived by those values ever since we started working together. And we've always put our relationship and our families ahead of money. And I think it served us well because we've launched probably a dozen software products and SaaS companies over the years. We have, 3 service-based businesses now, and we've certainly gone through our share of ups and downs being entrepreneurs. But absolutely wouldn't change my experience for anything else. And having these 2 as my business partners has been just wonderful. So happy to take the conversation wherever you want to take it from there.
That's amazing. I think it's always very difficult to find business partners. When I interact with ventures, we have the our own version of the Silicon Roundabout here in London, and a lot of founders go and find their CTO or their, co-founders,
Yeah.
and there's always hit and miss because
Hmm.
you have to have those values and you have to build relationship, and so you've been lucky to actually find your partners and actually build a business, a mini businesses based on those 5 Fs.
Yeah. Agreed. Yep.
So when we met, Colin, I was actually quite mesmerized about your LinkedIn framework as a growth engine. So
Yeah.
can you tell us a bit more how you drive authenticity and educate the market when you look at the LinkedIn philosophy? And you won't believe, but I just came out from a call with one of my client because I do a little bit of social media
Hmm.
influence work with big brand. And so how did this ethos develop and how did you decide to, move from Monkey Island Ventures and start Rainmakers?
Yeah, great question. So, as I said, we've launched a bunch of different products and services over the years, and for the last, 6, 7 years, I've been spending a lot of time kind of growth hacking through LinkedIn and through cold email. And what I found is that I started to get a lot better results through LinkedIn, and ended up, building out a process and software and whatnot for myself. But went to my business partners early last year and said, you know what, I think a lot of other businesses could benefit from the process and software that I've built out. And so that's kind of how Rainmaker was born, out of a lot of my own experience and then really helping to apply it. So everything I'll talk about, you don't need me or Rainmaker to do any of what we'll discuss today. You can do it all manually if you want, but really that's kind of the layer that Rainmaker brings in, just a little bit of automation to help things happen. So, um, but all that being said, the ethos really that you brought up and the way that I think about LinkedIn philosophically is really kind of three things. Number one, you have to be authentic and genuine on LinkedIn, both to yourself as well as the brands you represent. And I think most people do a good job of that. LinkedIn's not a toxic place. It's a business social network. It's a monopoly. It's really the only one out there, and it's growing like crazy. And I've seen businesses, small and large, that I've spoken to and that I have as clients. They want to leverage LinkedIn. They're trying to figure it out, right? So your question is a very salient one. So, but that's the first thing, is being authentic and genuine, kind of that conversational tone. That's what people want on LinkedIn. Uh, and the second thing really is around mindset. And there's two parts to that. The first is having an educational mindset, because nobody wants to be sold on LinkedIn, but I think almost everyone's willing to be educated on LinkedIn. Okay, so that's really, really important. The second thing is having an experimentation mindset, which is you're going to try different features and functions within LinkedIn. You're going to try different messaging and whatnot, and sharing of assets and all these things. And you want to stack the things that work, the things that aren't working, set to the side, and maybe you'll try at a later date. But I think having an experimentation mindset is also important. And then the last thing is really understanding what are the pains and barriers that your prospects are trying to overcome. What is it that they want to learn from you? How can you educate them? And the most important thing is really knowing what it is that you can teach on LinkedIn. And I think especially B2B, can be incredibly successful on LinkedIn by adopting that. So my general framework philosophy is being authentic and genuine, having that education and experimentation mindset, and then finally figuring out what it is that your audience can learn from you. What can you teach on LinkedIn? So what we'll really talk about today is, I'm not really focused on my client's LinkedIn profile, and I'm not focused on organic content, the posting and liking and comments and all that. That's not what I'm focused on, and that's not what we'll talk about today. Uh, but what I really have identified in the last year is that I want LinkedIn to be a revenue driver for my company. And it doesn't mean that I'm still not doing posts on, or, organic posts or commenting or, those types of things. But what I want is my time ended up getting shifted over to other activities that are much more aligned with using LinkedIn in an authentic way to help drive relationships and especially leads and sales. So I'll pause there. There's two kind of other layers that we can get into, but I'll pause there, just kind of around the philosophy and what I've said, and see if you have any questions or thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear that it's all about B2B, right? And building B2B strategy. So before we go into the deep of your strategy and how you go and do that. I guess to actually build Rainmakers, you learned from Monkey Highland Ventures, right, in shaping that design. And what you learn around scaling SaaS businesses, I assume, came from your experience working with your partners and colleagues. And the second part of my question, before we go into the details of it, is what is your target audience? Because I assume as you're actually implementing Rainmakers with other organizations, you yourself are very clear around your niche.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm typically working with founders, right? Entrepreneurs, fractionals, people that, sit in a like a sales or marketing seat and then have other responsibilities within the company, or people that sit directly in a sales or marketing seat. So those are the people that I'm working with. And my clients, vary from, again, founders, solopreneurs, fractionals, all the way up to, one of my clients has 7 of their salespeople on it. Now, the strategies and what they should be doing is the same. It doesn't matter the size of the company. The strategies are the same because we, for good and bad, we're forced to work within the framework of LinkedIn, right?
Yes.
The features and functions that they allow us to use, that's what we can use. And so, but the benefit of that too, though, is that there's lots of opportunity to engage with your prospects through LinkedIn in ways that are very valuable, that are relationship building, that set you up as a thought leader. And one thing that I've really realized over the last couple of months is I think people undervalue the value of a LinkedIn first connection. When
Mm.
you are connected to someone as a first connection, you can see all kinds of information about them. You can direct message them just as if you were going to send them an email. You can then use these other features and functions around inviting them to things, whether it's a live stream or maybe a poll or these different things on LinkedIn that can bring them in ways that kind of enrich the potential for what the relationship looks like, and then allows you to, I think, more easily get into the opportunity to actually get in conversation and close clients.
Yeah, as you are speaking, so let's just highlight a few things. I was doing some number checks today. LinkedIn has around 1 billion users. I think it's 990 million users, so around 1 billion users. And
Yep.
on average, we have 310 million users every month actively engaging.
Hmm.
So that is the first part. The second part is around some of the features you are mentioning. I'm working with one leading Fortune 500 right now, and we are going to organize in the future an event. And what I realize is the marketing team do not really understand how to use some of those features. So whilst my job is to promote and push that event to actually welcome people to attend, other guests, they didn't use the event functionality on LinkedIn. They're actually organizing the event externally, so creating
Yep.
friction. And so
Mhm.
therefore that creates a little bit of a problem for me to deliver the results. So let's go into Colin, Rainmaker's method and
Yeah.
mechanism. So how do you build this authentic engine and
Yeah.
get value for your cohorts of clients?
Yeah, great question. Okay, so that top layer is philosophy, right? Then the middle layer is around audience building. And when I look at that, I look at that a few ways. So one is I'm typically building audiences through Sales Navigator. I'd say about half my clients have it, half don't. If a client doesn't have it, I can use my own. But Sales Navigator is the sales tool within LinkedIn that allows you to really hone in on audiences. You can use all kinds of different filters. You can save audiences. You can build lists. So it's a powerful tool in building out audiences. Now, a couple of growth hacks that you and your listeners could think about is one are LinkedIn events. So if you have a direct competitor that's putting on a LinkedIn event, or maybe there's an industry organization putting on a LinkedIn event that your business solves for, if you attend that event, you can see everyone else that's also attending that event. You could actually build a prospect list off of other people's events, knowing that this is a topic your business solves for. And these people are publicly raising their hand and saying, this is who I am, and I'm interested in this topic, right? So that's identifying people a little bit further down the funnel. Another would be using a person as a proxy. So there's a woman named Brenda on LinkedIn. She's got 70,000 followers. She posts all the time about, organic posts and your LinkedIn profile and things like that. Well, I connected with her. She connected back with me. Because her connections are open, I can look and say, okay, I want to look at everyone that's a first connection to her, but as a second connection to me that's in the United States and has, a founder title or a sales executive title, et cetera, and start connecting with those people because I know most likely they're connected with her because they're trying to figure out and learn how to grow on LinkedIn and get her content, and therefore they would be a good candidate for Rainmaker. So those are the three main ways. One is Sales Navigator, then the other two are LinkedIn events and using a person as a proxy. So that's really kind of that middle layer is around audience building, right? Honing in on the kinds of people that you want to connect and build relationship with. So I'll stop there before we get to that. It's kind of the bottom layer, which are the actual strategies and activating the audience, just to see if you had any thoughts or questions.
Yeah, no, the question which is coming to my mind is you mentioned Sales Navigator. And so I do use Sales Navigator, and like you, I build list from Sales Navigator. And I do use the event functionality, as I mentioned. So how do you balance, using Sales Navigator and all those functionality and automation, right? To build genuine engagement. We see out there a lot of organizations or a lot of people using bots like technology. And so how do you optimize your time? Because you can spend the whole day on LinkedIn.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No. So, number one, if you're using automation in any way that is like inauthentic, right? Where the instant someone connects with you, you're sending a message back asking them for a meeting, right? That doesn't work. It doesn't work in email. It doesn't work, even in person. Like the instant you meet someone, you're not just going to say, "Oh, I do this. Would you like to set up a meeting?" Like it doesn't work. That ruins experience, I think, on LinkedIn. So I wish those people would stop. But I think it's just kind of lazy marketing, lazy sales happening on LinkedIn. But what I will say is that building out your first connections is really, really critical. And the way that the methodology that I use for myself and all of my clients is reaching out to 25 people a day, Monday through Friday, right, with that audience that we've built out, and during normal working hours. Okay. And so that gets you 125 people a week, 500 people a month. That's still below LinkedIn limit. So if you're going to in-person networking events or going to a conference or things like that, you could still connect with people and do what you need to do. And you'll typically get around a 20% connection rate. Just know if you're building an audience out of Sales Navigator, their algorithm works to kind of front load that with better contacts. So you'll usually see diminishing returns as you're going through and working through a Sales Navigator list.
Okay.
We are almost never using a connection message. We're just asking for the connection. There are times where you might want to use a connection message. So I have a couple of clients that are going to conferences, trade shows, and things like that, and they're getting lists of people that are also attending these conferences. And we'll send a message, saying, "Hey, so and so, we're both going to be at the upcoming conference. Would love to connect with you beforehand." Or, "Hey, so and so, we both were at so and so conference. We weren't able to connect, but I'd love to connect with you here on LinkedIn." Right? So that type of message is fine. You just don't want to use a message that feels kind of canned
Yeah.
because that's going to put people off. It's just better not even to include a message. And as long as you have some mutual connections, even if it's just, a couple, it's crazy. Even if you don't have mutual connections, I'm seeing people connect back. But the connection rate will typically be around 20-ish%. If you fall into the low teens, high single digits, then you probably need to refresh the list, go look at a new list. If you're above that, then you're doing great. Also, within 30 days, if you send an invite out and they don't connect within 30 days, then we withdraw the invite, right? And you can go and do everything we're talking about today. People can go and do manually. You can go into your LinkedIn account right now and remove invites you've sent to people that are over, 30 days if you want. It's just good hygiene to do it. Plus, after you, rescind the invite, there's a 3-week period of time where you can't re-invite them.
Yeah.
But after that 3-week period of time is up, now you kind of have these pools of people that you could reach back out to and connect with them again. So, but the main thing is you have to you have to have that cadence of reaching out to 25 people a day, Monday through Friday. And the reason is everything else you do after that um, only gets better and has bigger possibilities when you are reaching out to an ever-growing audience of your ideal client profiles to the different activities, whether it's messaging, whether it's inviting them to like an event, a live stream, inviting them to participate in a poll, whatever that is. It's better just to have a growing audience of ICPs that you could build relationship with. So that's really kind of the foundation, is building out your audience every week. So we can get into some strategies that kind of layer into that, but I'll stop there.
Yes, absolutely. So you actually highlighted 25 people per day, so 125 per week, and the cleaning as well of the data, which, definitely I was told that make sure every 30 days you have to check people have connected with you or not. And that is very good for the algorithm as well, because the algorithm sees that you're actually having good hygiene when you're actually managing your account, right? And Colin, one thing which come to mind is, when you start looking at entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people with really scarce time, how do you help them actually get more effective on the platform when they actually have really limited budget?
Yeah, no, again a great question. So really, Rainmaker is just automating out some of these strategies that we're talking about today. And I've set it up. So far, it's like a white glove SaaS. So instead of them, interacting with software, they're just interacting with me, and then I'm getting everything set up and having it run. Now, if if you're not using a platform, you're going to have to just spend your manual time, or hire out to another human
Yeah.
the ability to get these things done. But what sales is critical for any organization. And I think that's really where there's kind of the time cost equation that someone needs to look at and say, like, well, if I was going to spend X amount of hours a week doing this, what's my hourly rate worth? Like, what is it worth it to have me working on other things and just have this process and these things happening in the back end where I know that we're getting connections and hopefully starting to get some kind of ROI with the other strategies that we can talk about here in a minute. But I do think that's really kind of the question is kind of just around time, where you're spending it, and where are you getting results. But
Right.
again, with LinkedIn, I have not had a client yet that doesn't connect with their ICPs. And I was just looking at one of my clients' accounts today, and it has a 28% connection rate and is going after like C-level execs here in the US as well as in the UK. So
Yeah.
no, people are on LinkedIn. It's growing. Companies big and small are trying to figure it out. And most people are lurkers. 90% of the people on LinkedIn, they're not posting content. They're not super active. They're just
Yeah.
looking, right? They're
They are
just
lookers.
getting
Yeah,
on,
I like the
looking.
term. They are lookers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And everybody's logged into their LinkedIn account really all the time, which is part of the beauty of, a couple of these other strategies that we can talk about. But yeah, so I'll pause there.
Yeah, so what comes to mind first is, I will share one of my experiences. I do get a lot of people wanting to connect with me, and the minute they try to sell to me, I actually switch off, and actually I
Yep.
delete them from my account, so I block them.
Yep.
So
Yep.
and for anybody who actually apply that strategy rather than focusing on what is important to me, or
Yep.
asking for a simple cup of coffee, like meeting for coffee, right? A chat will usually be banned from my
Yep.
cycle. Now, looking at a lot of the entrepreneurs who are there, what do you think are the main mistake they are making when they actually start engaging with
Mm.
LinkedIn? As I said, 1 billion
Yep.
people on LinkedIn. There are
Yep.
7 billion people on this planet, so there's many more people who can be on LinkedIn. So,
Hmm.
as we start our experience in a journey on LinkedIn, what should we not do?
Yeah. Well, the number one thing is, and trust me, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've sat in the sales seat my entire life. I know how desperately we all want to close business, that we want to grow our company. And when you're, making new connections, whether it's on LinkedIn or whether you're talking to someone in person, like I know how we can get kind of anxious or excited and just really want to like get that person to buy from me, right? You have to emotionally distance yourself from that, and you have to just be dedicated to doing things the right way, which is through education, and it's not through selling. And so what I'll talk about here is some of the different strategies, because I think the basic strategies that are the same for every company. What the specific topics and assets are that you're sharing can obviously differ from company to company. So some of the strategies. So number one, what's pretty typical is that we will bolt on like a message campaign to the new connections. Okay. The first message usually goes out 1 to 3 days after the connection's made, and all it's doing is thanking them for the connection. You're not selling anything. You're not even trying to help. You're just thanking them for the connection. If a response comes in, it comes into the LinkedIn inbox, and myself or the client, can take that conversation wherever it goes. If they don't respond, then 7 to 14 days later, a second message will go out. That's where you have to provide some type of value. So a couple of my clients, they're just responding with a second message with a question. They're just simply asking a question, and it's not asking to meet, but they've thought through like what would be kind of an interesting question to ask that those people would find interesting and want to potentially respond back to me. I have some clients that are sharing an asset that they built out that these prospects would be interested in. Sometimes you might want to share out a third party asset that you think your prospects would be interested in. One of the things that I did, I was connecting with sales executives in the surrounding area where I live over the last couple of months. And then I created a LinkedIn poll and invited them to participate. And about 25% of the people I invited through LinkedIn participated in the LinkedIn poll. And I even had a few reach out to ask, like, well, what are you going to do with the results? Or I'd like to hear your thoughts once the poll is done. So, that's an example. So you can use messages, these direct messages, in ways where you're not selling, you're providing some type of value. And that's where that experimentation mindset plays, right? Where you're educating, but you don't always know exactly what it is that people want to know or hear about or learn about. And so that's where you want to just kind of experiment with different things. So that direct message campaign is very, very typical. The other thing is, as you are growing out your first degree network, you might have an asset that you want to just share a few months down the road with everyone that's a first connection of yours that is a founder, in London, let's just say, right? And maybe there's an event that's going on, or maybe there's, something about the startup ecosystem you read about that you thought was really cool about, something happening in London. Well, you might want to just say, okay, I'm going to grab everybody that's a first connection of mine that's a founder that lives in London, and I'm going to message them, about this thing that I think they would find valuable, and then you message it out to that group. So again, you know, it's about building relationship. It's about staying top of mind. It's about having them see you as a thought leader, and that's where some of these messages we're talking about, LinkedIn poll, but especially LinkedIn live streams is what I've found to be incredibly valuable for me, and it also opens up the opportunity for you to start getting into some direct sales approaches. So the thing that I do with LinkedIn live streams is I have been creating first degree audiences of mine broken out to different verticals. So founders, sales executives, fractionals, business coaches, etc. I created a deck, which is learn how to grow your network leads and sales using LinkedIn. I've used essentially the same deck with iterative improvements throughout probably the last year, but generally it's the same content, and I'm just making some improvements to it.
So,
But
Colin, you have
yeah,
one deck, three target audience, or you have split the deck, one for each target audience.
yeah. So that's a great question. So the deck is about 99% the same, regardless of the audience. But what I'm doing is I'm customizing the first slide of the deck. I'm using that as the image on my LinkedIn event where it'll say, LinkedIn growth webinar, and it'll say for fractionals or for sales executives or for, you know, um, you know, uh, business coaches,
Yeah.
etc. So now when I invite them to the event, not only is the topic interesting, but then they feel like the topic was built just for their industry or for their title. Okay. So that's a great way. And the benefit for me is I'm using the same content essentially every single week to different audiences. And I know this content so well because I'm doing it all the time. It doesn't take me any time. I get ready to go live 5 minutes before I'm supposed to do the presentation, the live stream, because I already know the content. And in January I did one every week, and I had on average probably around 60 to 70 people per event.
Amazing.
So what you want to do the whole process, and I have my whole LinkedIn live stream process mapped out in a one-page PDF that I'm happy to give you and happy to share with the audience. But it's about identifying an audience, identifying a topic, and then it's about creating the LinkedIn live stream event.
Mhm.
And then you want to send out LinkedIn event invites. That's an actual function within LinkedIn. And the great thing about that is it shows up as an alert. It doesn't come in as a direct message. So you're not going to burn your audience out. And it gives them the opportunity then to click that link and go to the event page and then decide if they want to click the attend button or not. To your point before, everybody is logged into their LinkedIn account all the time. So you could share this event URL not only within LinkedIn and through posts and LinkedIn groups and things like that, but you could put it on your website. You could send it in an email campaign, because once people click the link, they're already logged in, they show up on the event page, and then they make a decision within 5 to 10 seconds on if they want to click attend or not. So that's the event creation. And then you want to send out the LinkedIn event invites. And then you want to promote the event, like I just mentioned, and then you want to host the actual event. And you need to use a third-party product. I use a product called StreamYard, but you could use, you might even be able to use Zoom. I'm not sure, but
I
there's
use
multiple.
StreamYard as well. I mean, I
Oh,
think
okay.
a lot of us use StreamYard because it's so
Yeah.
connected with the platform.
Yeah.
StreamYard.
It's super easy. Yep, yep. So then what you'll do is you will host the live stream, and then when the live stream is over, this is where the magic happens. You want to message everyone that attended the event. Okay. And my message typically would be like, hey, Colin, thanks for registering for the LinkedIn live stream that I hosted or that I led. Here's a link to the recording, right? So it just points back to the event page, because after the live stream's over, the recording lives there forever. And then underneath that, I'll say, if you ever want to chat LinkedIn strategy, feel free to grab some time convenient for you here. And then I give them my Calendly. Okay. So if you look at what has just happened is you've identified an audience, you've identified a topic, you've invited them to attend. They've gotten to that page. They trust you enough and see you enough as a thought leader that then they press attend. So now they're opting in to you and to your content. Now you're teaching them something. And when it's over, you're following up with them, whether they watch the live stream or not. And you are giving them an opportunity to further the learnings and conversation through a Calendly, right? Through a meeting. And that, for most businesses, is the lifeblood of your business is getting those meetings. So
Yeah.
you can see that what we're really honing in on is a way to do it in a way that's not salesy, it's not spammy, it's just kind of a natural next step. And it's something that you can just do over and over again without spending a ton of time. And if you think about, all the things we've talked about today, none of it has to do with organic posting. None of it has to do with comments and liking and impressions and all those things. What it has to do is spending the time to identify an audience, spending the time to figure out what do they care about, what pains do they have, how can I help them understand how to kind of get over those pains and barriers through education and teaching them what I know, what I understand, and doing it in a way that really, I think, leans into adding value to the LinkedIn ecosystem. And so LinkedIn loves that. Your prospects will love it. And I think you'll love it too, because I think it will help you generate leads and sales through LinkedIn.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know what I love from your message is, first, the platform is about education. And they've started also the training angle as well on the platform, which
Hmm.
really extend when you start looking at events, which is timing live. You can extend those events through the training functionality as well. You can do free training and actually build that educational, but also that thought leadership, that authority, and that credibility. The second point, I think, which I love, is experimentation. You have to try. You're a bit like generative AI. You have to try so then you can actually understand the pro and the cons, what works for you. But the key thing you're highlighting is not just about pushing content, it's about having the right funnel. And so
Hmm.
when you start looking at your events, you're actually sending back a thank you. So, if you want to look at it, here it is. Or if you are not able to attend it and you want to look at it, here it is. And if you
Yep.
want to know more, organize a call with me.
Hmm.
Now, Colin, I work in finance. And so I'm sure people who are going to listen to this will want for me to ask the finance questions, right? When you look at insurance and financial sector, we have strict compliance rules. So how do we make sure we stay within the regulatory frameworks when we start outreach with people using the platform, but
Hmm.
also making sure we are following in Europe the GDPR?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, when someone creates a first connection with you on LinkedIn, you are able to communicate with that person. Obviously, regardless of where you're located, the jurisdiction, the local laws and whatnot, you have to follow those if it has anything to do with legal or finance. So, that's on the individual and the company operating within those jurisdictions to make sure that they're following the laws there. But if you're not giving legal advice, if what you are doing is like teaching, you're able to with a lot of companies, if what you're able to teach in like an in-person like educational workshop or things like that, being able to do that through a live stream, through a webinar, is just another way, and I think a more scalable way of being able to do that. So, but again, I think what it boils down to, once you've crossed kind of any barriers you might have, from a legal standpoint and ensuring if you work at a larger company, getting through any of the red tape in order for you to do what you want to do, then it's just a matter of, making those connections and then, putting on those live streams and sharing those topics that your audience is really interested in.
Yeah, I have a number of connection and very close friends, for example, in a recruitment space, and they live on LinkedIn, right? They live for LinkedIn. That's the way they actually identify their future clients, but
Yeah.
also start tapping into understanding the market trends, right, around recruitment. And so your advice as well as to how to reach out to people, how to make sure to remain within the constraint of compliance and regulation within the country, within the region is critical. Now, Colin, if there were advice you would give these entrepreneurs and solopreneurs for 2025, what would be the top advice you would ask them to consider entering this year? We're still quite early, Q1 of the year, so that they may change their behavior, change their mindset, so that they can actually start looking at LinkedIn as a source of power to grow their business.
Yeah, great question. Well, I mean, I think the number one thing I would say to any entrepreneur is, um, focus in on um, helping people solve the pain that they're experiencing. And so that's critical. You could do all the networking in the world, both in person and online, but if you don't actually have a product or service that people want, you're going to run into big problems. And I've had that problem. I've launched SaaS products where I thought it was a really great idea, and I got crickets. And it's not fun spending a lot of time and effort working on things and not making any money at it. So that would be the number one thing is just like it doesn't matter how you start to sell it. If you're a tech-based company and you start offering it as a service, well, fine. You're going to be talking to your clients. You're going to be really understanding their pains and their issues. A lot of
Mhm.
times it's easier to sell a service than it is necessarily a product.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you can't work on your product in the back end. So I think that'd be the number one thing. Just make sure you're actually addressing a real pain in a way that people are willing to pay you to help them, fix that pain. And then the second thing is just behind that would be then go to in-person events, build out your network, build out relationships with people in the real world. And then secondarily to that, leverage LinkedIn in all the ways that we talked about today. Don't be so concerned with all these organic posts and liking and commenting and all that. Yes, that still matters. But, from a percentage standpoint, I would focus probably 75% on the efforts that I talked about today, and the other 25% on the organic side of LinkedIn.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's always about the balance. So, we are in the world of AI and generative AI now, and
Mhm.
it's reshaping personal engagement and the way we communicate. Where do you see human-driven strategy to play within LinkedIn outreach vis-a-vis, leveraging artificial intelligence? How do we need to change the playbook, whether we are a small business or maybe looking at big enterprises as well?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I use AI all the time. I think AI is a wonderful tool. You should absolutely leverage it. Um, I actually created a Rainmaker Messenger GPT just for free that anybody can use to build out LinkedIn messages because I had clients coming to me and I'm not helping my clients with content, but they would still say, "Hey, what do you think of these messages?" And sometimes I'm just kind of like, they're not very good. They're too salesy or they're too long. And I ended up about 3, 4 months ago just building out a GPT and letting them use it. And I'm happy anybody else to use it too. But what it does is it creates a process and helps build out kind of your 2+ messages in the ways that you and I talked about, where that first message is a thank you message. That second message and beyond needs to be about adding value. And so I think, building within AI, utilizing AI, but don't do it in a way that is cheapening the opportunity for you to actually connect with all the ways that we've talked about today.
Yeah.
Don't rush into selling people. If you try and really customize a message using AI, you can try it, but you'd probably want to just look and see, how the messages are coming out because um, it's there's still a lot of issues with AI, and if people start to see through it, that the authenticity part gets eroded really, really fast. So
Yeah.
it's really important to that. That you are paying attention to the people you're connecting with, the value you're providing, and the things that we talked about today. You can still do some of this, kind of en masse, but you need to do it in a way that uh, isn't eroding the possibility of building relationship with your prospects. So everything that we talked about, people should go back and listen to that. But yes, I think leveraging AI, but do it in a way that's kind of just augmenting your ability to, I think, craft decks, craft messaging, etc., that is acutely addressing the pain points,
Yeah.
that is adding value to how you are educating, and use that in a way that hopefully will take less of your time, but then you can use more of your time then to really build relationship, do the live streams, use AI to maybe break down the results of a poll, but then give your kind of take on it. But make sure you're still, yeah, inserting yourself into the kind of the AI gen.
Yeah. AI, as I said, is about a bit of automation, but a lot of augmentation. But I think another thing I want to echo is think about your LinkedIn profile like another shop window, right? You have your website represent you, your LinkedIn profile represents you, and what you say when people come to visit you, same metaphor, right? Needs to actually present a
Mhm.
respectful brand, authentic brand, credibility, authority, so that people come in and want to stay in. So, Colin,
Agreed.
I want to make sure that I remind you that there will be comments, so there will be notes within the podcast. So, if you want to share, some of the freebie you mentioned, we will put
Yeah,
them there for our listeners to actually go and find it and be able to reach out to you.
great. Yeah.
But if there were a last few words you would want to say to those listening to this discussion, what would there be?
Yeah. Well, first of all, any existing entrepreneurs out there, kudos to you. Keep doing what you're doing. Any aspiring entrepreneurs, an adage that I like to say is, everyone's making up everything all the time. Doesn't matter if you're Tim Cook of Apple or whether it's, you and I here, we're all making it up. And so those aspiring entrepreneurs, like, get started, get in the game. The world needs more entrepreneurs. It's one of the best ways, I think, of human beings channeling the innate creativity that we all have is through entrepreneurship and building businesses. And so I'll start with that, please, please, we need more entrepreneurs. And then the second thing is dip your toe into some of the things that we've talked about today. I don't think there's really a better B2B play, especially for LinkedIn, than the things we've discussed today. And if anybody has questions, I'm always happy to chat or answer those. So yeah, I'm here to support.
Well, thank you, Colin. And so if people want to find you, where do they go? Which email or which platform? Where do they go
Yeah.
if they want to find you?
Yeah. Well, I'm the only Colin Hirdman on the internet. So if you just type that in, you'll go right to you'll see my LinkedIn profile and all that. Connect with me there. Rainmakergrows.com is the URL. There's a free consultation button around the site that would book a Calendly directly with me. And then Rainmaker Grows, I'm also building out more and more to be just a free resource on how to use LinkedIn. So encourage people to go check it out.
So let's build the next billion of people on LinkedIn,
Right.
Colin.
Exactly.
It's a pleasure to have you on Scouting for Growth. And I look forward to also looking at your resources. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Wonderful questions. You're a wonderful host.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Scouting for Growth. Please subscribe, share with friends, and leave a 5-star rating. Your rating is so valuable. I review all of them, and my team help me adapt content to meet your needs. Also, connect with me on my preferred channels. I am a B2B growth expert, so you will find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Threads, and X as well as Blue Sky. All information available below. Until next, keep scouting for growth.